Isaac, how do you feel about Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice?
It's one of the best games of all time.
Me too. Okay, well, that was a good episode. We said something good about something for once. We can get the haters off our back. uh, no, legit. No, here's the thing. I talk about this a lot. I'm going to go into this real quick, and then I'll let you do. Actually, you know what? You take opening remarks about Sekiro, and then I'll follow up.
Uh, From Software made Sekiro. These are the people that made Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3. All great games. And Sekiro's better than all of them.
I agree.
So that should say something, especially because Dark Souls changed gaming. We've been over this. Every game is Dark Souls-like now.
Yeah.
More games need to be Sekiro-like, but I don't know if they can.
Well, that's the
'Cause
thing. All the games that
From
try to
Software
be
doesn't miss.
yes, all the games that try to be Dark Souls like fall short. And there's a game I started to play it before I'd played Sekiro. It's called like Wo Long or something. It's like a new game, and people are like, "Yeah, it's like Sekiro, but a little different." It's nothing like Sekiro. It's not a good game. It's very simple and easy and it's dumb. But I will say that you liked Sekiro from the start. I remember you telling me about it for a long time, and the reason I started playing it is because you had gotten every achievement, and so I had initially played the game. I was getting my ass kicked, and I was like, "This is too hard. I hate this game," and I quit. And now this is my Dark Souls 1 story, but over 6 months. And then I came back again. I said, no, I can do this. And I came in with a different mindset. That is, I'm not gonna. You really have to come in with this mindset. I think if well, maybe just for me because I'm insanely stubborn. But I was like, I can't just fucking play it anyway. I have to play it the way the game intends to be played. I have to learn the game's mechanics. But then once you do, something clicks, and it is just unbeatable.
Yeah, it's very worth learning.
Yeah,
It's a great system.
the way you know what reinforced the thought process of like you should learn this is when they have a new game plus, and I don't typically play new game plus in very many games. I could probably count the number of games on one hand I've played new game plus on at all, even like press the option. And when you first go through the game, the very beginning, it does the tutorial section, and then it just starts, drip feeding you some enemies, and there's like a mini boss enemy. That's not really a boss. It's just like a shogun or whatever, right? And he's like the first one that has like a double health meter that you have to take down.
Right.
And the first time through, like it took me forever. I might have even died to him like the first time playing the game. I was like, I don't get it. He's so strong. What's going on? And then when you do New Game Plus, like I was like, this is child's play. I fought in so many harder things. I blasted through him but it was just with knowledge of the game. I was so comfortable with it at that time that I was like, oh, this is no problem. I can do this. So it's really there is something. There should be like a fucking warning on the front page and stuff. Games have like epilepsy warnings. This should say like, bro, you gotta fucking get in it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be in it. That's what it should say on the main screen before you press start. That's how they prep you. But that being said, I stuck it out, and like every step of the way, every boss that I thought was like super hard, the afterwards the feeling of winning is more rewarding than any other game. It's just like mastering the boss because they do something in this game which I really like, and they really only do in other games on the highest difficulty settings. And there's not really a word for it. We need to invent one. But there's like several fights where they just demand that you be perfect. You just like kind of
Yeah.
can't make a mistake in several fights. You can make it like barely, but like to win to succeed, you really have to like you can't like scratch your way to and claw your way to a finish line the way you could in Dark Souls, where you like chip away at the guy's health and you're using estises and you're using buffs and debuffs, and it's just like I can beat this guy. I just have to do a couple of things. I'll slowly chip his health down. Where it's like with the posture meter, the way you're on a clock and you can't take breaks, and so that really takes away. It adds a sense of urgency where instead of like, oh, this is a war of attrition. I can beat this guy, but it'll take me fucking 20 minutes of slowly chipping away his health or doing this tactic or this tactic. It's like if I do not execute the way they want me to and do it very well, then I'm not going to get past this point in the game. And I think that's kind of a big turnoff for a lot of people.
Yeah, I found all the fights challenging, but they were all fun to do.
Yes.
Sekiro is like a rhythm game, and it's like once you learn the song, not to be too poetic about the game,
No,
but
go
once
be
you like
even more
learn,
poetic if you can.
I don't think I can. But once you learn the fight, it feels so rewarding to counter everything the correct ways.
Yeah, and I know, excuse me, a consensus online is Genichiro first time is like the big bad of the game, where it's like, if this is where it's your true test. If you can't get past this, then you're in for it. This is like the big moment. I know a lot of people, when I was playing it before and when I was playing it this time, told me like, yeah, this is like the stopping point. People either get past this and they end up liking the game, or they call it quits here, which I can see. But then also going back, it was funny because on New Game Plus, you fight him there, and then you have fighting him another time in the game. And so on New Game Plus, you have the option of fighting him the very first boss fight, like as the you're not supposed to win, the cutscene after he cuts your arm off. And
Right.
I absolutely smashed it in New Game Plus, like demolished him. And it wasn't like, again, you have added stuff, but like he could very easily kill you there. You get like some bonuses, but not enough that really like matters. Like you're not doing like extra damage really at any point.
Yeah.
You're just sort of like, you know the systems of the game, you know what you're doing, and you know his patterns. And I just hit, a lot of good parries, and I slayed him. You only get one try to do it on that as well. So
Yeah.
it was really like this cool moment to I got like another sense of satisfaction going back into New Game Plus and being like, damn, I really do, like, I understand it now. I like it and I'm good at it, and that was like a super fun moment. It was like a reaffirming moment of like, oh yeah, like it honestly like changes the entire perspective of the game. Like going in with the knowledge I know now is like, it's a different game. You're prepared for it and you're fun. Every avenue of engagement is like a fun time, where a lot of times like people don't like challenge, I think, in video games anymore, which is the problem.
Yeah.
I will say,
Yeah, there was a lot of complaints when Sekiro came out
mhm,
about like there should be an easy mode, and that was a huge uh point of contention when it first released.
yeah. Well, that's what it's something interesting that they say, where it's like, I think it's because of the way culture around games has arisen, where no, for some reason no one's asking for easy mode on Mario Bros. One. And it's just because the only people that were playing it were people that wanted challenging games, which is the only people that were playing games back then. That's what games were. It's just like a challenging game. It was a challenging thing. So now people like unchallenged games have come onto the market, and for some reason those people are the most vocal about how every game should be not challenging anymore. I'm not asking
Yeah,
for hard
they're
mode on The
all
Sims, so why are you asking for easy mode on Sekiro?
yeah. Yeah, they're all cowards. Like just
They
play the
are.
game.
Um,
And if you don't like it, just play a different game.
exactly. If you just admit that you're a failure and you're not good at games if you can't beat it,
Exactly.
just own up to it. It's okay. Just, you're a fucking loser and you're bad at games, but don't take that away from me. The challenge is what makes it. It would not be the same game without the challenge, because it's, again, people talk about this being games being fair and stuff like that all the time. Sekiro never even approaches like an unfair point in the main storyline. Like everything is just like the very first thing is like, yeah, you can parry moves, and then like every move that you can hit, you like that comes at you, you could just parry everything. Like you could just fucking parry a giant hammer from a big fat sumo guy, and you could parry a regular swordsman that attacks you. You could parry a dog jumping at you, or a fucking wolf trying to bite you. You could parry a
Very-
monkey.
Yeah, giant monkey
Yeah,
also.
a monkey and a giant monkey. And if you have a special thing on your sword, you can parry magic ghost spells, which I found
Yeah,
out after. But
you can just block everything, and if the more accurately you block it, the better you do.
that's
It's
something that
so
they do in games.
satisfying.
It's extremely satisfying. It's the reason why it excels so much. Because you look at games now, and we've talked about this before, so we're not going to get into it too much. But like, the new Star Wars game came out, the one with the gay kid from Shameless,
Yeah,
whatever it is. And the first one was bad. I quit. I quit playing it. And then I just like saw a clip of it. Like someone was like doing the intro cutscene, and you're like, he's like hanging from a rafter and he's like by his arms and he's like shimmying across it and there's like guards shooting at him and like this looks like fucking dog shit, dude. Like this is just he's just holding right. I was like, who is playing these games? These people that are holding right for 15 seconds straight in an interactive cutscene and then they're like, yeah, can we please get easy mode for Sekiro? Like, what the
Yeah,
fuck,
like
dude?
yeah, they all want to be Lara Croft,
Yeah,
Tomb Raider with long cutscenes
yeah.
and all that
But
shit.
I will say Sekiro got like a lot of awards and accolades, which I think is interesting because it is just so. It's a testament to its execution because a game that difficult, probably maybe because it came after Dark Souls and people were sort of eased into the difficulty standard, maybe. But it got so many awards and it is a really complete game. There's very few things that I went through in it that I questioned or that like bothered me. And even when they did, I think I want to create a term for this. I think the things that bothered me is because it does expect excellence out of you so often, even in like typical, like not even just the bosses, but like even just on a random fight, you can just get rocked if you're not on at all points. So it sort of expects a lot of you throughout the entire thing and expects you to be at a high level nonstop. So I think the only times I really got upset at the game was when I was like fatigued from having just you really can't like let off the gas at all.
Yeah, yeah, it's a game that demands your attention. Other games will lull you to sleep with
Yes.
a bunch of
Where
holding right in one screen, holding up in the next screen, and they're like, "Hey, you're exploring," and it's like, "Can I fight people?" There's always enemies in Sekiro, or you can just teleport to where you're supposed to be going to. Like, there's very few
yeah.
long platforming sections.
And
There's
also
some sections where you're pressing the R button to grapple across, but
yeah. But here's the thing.
there's always action.
Here's the thing. One thing that throughout games, one travel mode has surpassed all other modes as the most fun, and no gamer has ever had a problem with it, and it's a fucking grappling hook. In every game that it's in, they're good.
That's an absolute fact.
They put it in the new Halo Infinite. It was the shining achievement of the single player campaign, the Infinite Grapple. You could do so much cool stuff with it. It was the only thing that really made me want to continue playing. Do you have a hook shot in Zelda? You have that grapple hook in Just Cause. It's the entire crux of the game or whatever. You have a grapple hook. Every game that has a Batman, every game that has a grapple hook, you're like, this is fun. It's the only mode of like it's the only non-combat mode of travel that is fun for some reason, and it's just cool because you're swinging around. It's what everyone wants to do. We're all monkeys. We all have monkey brains anyway. Every guy that plays it, yeah. When I turn off, like I beat Sekiro, I turned it off and I said, "Damn, I wish I was like the only thing to be better than this if I was like climbing around the trees in the jungle right now."
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking about. And I go downstairs and eat a banana and I pick a tick off my dog and eat it. But no, so the
Well, I can speak to how satisfying it is to learn. I beat Sekiro in 2019 when it came out on hand Switch,
mhm.
or not a Switch, his PS5 or PS4 or whatever he had. But I still don't have PlayStation, so and this game was only on that. And then it came out on PC, and I waited for it to go on sale until it's been like 4 years since it came out, and I just beat it again, and I got all the achievements like you said.
Yeah, you went through
But
and got every achievement.
my first playthrough this time, I beat Genichiro first try, and it was so satisfying that like all my knowledge of Genichiro like still carried over. Not I
Mhm.
didn't beat him the first time like when he cuts your arm off,
You
'cause
beat
I'm
the
still like
yeah.
relearning the game because it'd been years. But when I got to like the midpoint of the game, or like I guess the first act or whatever you call it, the first real boss fight where you can actually heal. Because the very first time you fight him when it's not new game, you don't have healing gourds
Yeah.
at all. You just have you can have like 3 pellets, I think. So it's like really hard to beat him the very first time in the playthrough.
No, no one has legitimately beat him that time. No one's that good at video games.
Yeah, I beat him that time.
Not you never.
Not
No
my
one has
first
ever done
try.
it their very first time. You don't understand the game yet.
There's no way.
It's like designed to. If you do that,
Yeah,
you're the best video gamer of all time, and no one's done it.
yeah. No one's that's the greatest achievement you can have, and I don't believe you. I think you'd like pre-studied
There's no you. It's not
play stuff
possible.
like
The
that.
game is
There's
designed
no
so
way.
well. Yeah, it's the only game of its kind. No, there's no other game where the parry system is designed in such a way. There's no like posture system in other games that really could have prepared you for this in any sort of fashion. It's that's why I think it's also frustrating to gamers. Like I have a lot of like game to game things that have become meta across multiple games. Where like if I pick up a shooter today and it's on controller, left trigger is ADS, right trigger shoot the gun, right? I don't even have to look at the buttons. RB's probably fucking grenade. You click in the right stick to melee, you press A to jump, right? Those are just like buttons that travel over. I don't know why. It's always the same on everything. So if I pick up a new shooter, I have decent aim. I'm gonna be able to just like wreck people off the rip. Like when we jumped in the Splitgate, I was just killing people.
Right.
And I think that people that do play a lot of games expect this from Sekiro when they're gonna go. I think that's why they get that flack where they go, "Oh, dude, I've played fucking Dark Souls. I'll just pick this up and slay." And then they lose a bunch of times, and they're like, "Yeah, it's the game's fault, not me." They go, "Can we
Yeah.
take this down a notch?" So, but I really like that. I mean, it's innovating in that sense where it's the only game of its type. I don't know what the genre would be. But with the entire combat mechanic is fun, it's fluid, and my driving point for games. When I was talking about the grapple movement earlier because I hate fucking movement in video games. I just want to be doing stuff. I really don't think movement should really exist at all. Like when you and Sekiro is designed so well that like every point is like when you're grappling, it's not because they just threw in grappling sections and you're just like carelessly going. It's for like very specific well designed map travel or like cutting
Yeah.
around behind an enemy or finding a secret entrance or finding a secret item or a specific way that they want you to move to the next section. But the movement is designed around the combat. Like you said, there's tons of combat in the game. You're constantly fighting. And the cool thing about that is, again, every step of the way, even when you do New Game Plus, I did beat the fight you're not supposed to win because you have healing gourds and I was used to fighting him and shit like that. But then, like, I went to the next section and I died to the fucking ogre tied to a board or whatever. And I'd beat him my first time through. So if you know what I mean, you would say like, "Oh, I have no I should just mop him up," and he kicked my ass. So you have to be on every time. I just like something about that. That's just they expect a lot out of you, but then when you succeed, it feels that much better. And there's really no game doing it right now. And it's like that every step of the way. There's this like I don't know what there's this thing where you'll fail at something and then even like when you get to the end, what was it, the Fountainhead place or whatever? I don't really
Yeah.
like
Found.
that place. That was probably my least favorite.
Yeah.
But like even still, it's like there's these guys and they attack a certain way, and then you get to a section, there's like five of them. You're like, what the fuck do I do? And then when you figure it out, you're like, oh, this is actually like kind of easy. I feel dumb for not figuring this out sooner. And you beat it, and then you beat it again in that section, and then you lose the third time. You're like, fuck. Like you gotta stay on. You can't. You like you're you rest on what you've done so far and you take a little bit off the top and then but you do that and they fucking take advantage of it and it's like a game that keeps checking you like that and it's such a wonderful experience.
Yeah. They do a great job of adding in mechanics too. Like the reason Genichiro is such a struggle for so many people is because they fed you guys with swords, they fed you guys with spears, so like they've given you different attacks where you need to learn how to Makiri counter for this mini boss, and like you need to learn how to jump over sweeps for this mini boss, and like all this other stuff, and then you have to learn Genichiro's attack patterns, deal with all those mechanics that you've learned before, and then on top of that, that's the first fight with the lightning.
And he also has like a pretty
Hard enough.
brutal lengthy posture breaking combo that you don't
Yeah,
really have to deal with a lot from other guys until this point.
yeah, I think it's a floating passage they
Mm-hmm.
call it in the game.
Yeah, so he'll just like fuck you up. You have to hit a couple of like actual parries, or else your posture mirror is just gonna fucking tank it. So,
You have
and
to learn his parry patterns, and then you also have to deal with all these other mechanics to react to.
mm-hmm.
And then they add another mechanic to react to for the
And
very
it's a
final fight.
three-stage boss.
Yeah, and he has high posture.
Yeah, he's a really well designed boss. He's like super awesome. It's super cool that they put him in, in like the first third to one half of the game. it's like really neat that they didn't save like that. That is another thing too, where when they expect excellence out of you, but they also provide excellence, because you get to other bosses later. They're like, oh, this guy's like an even cooler boss.
Yeah, they have some amazing bosses. The
They
game is
really
all
do.
boss fights to me, and it had no DLC that cost money at all. The only DLC they released was a boss rush section and an option to fight a boss anytime you want from a bonfire. You could just go into a mode where you could fight a boss.
They did add that
And
one. They did add that one. It is paid. Well, I paid for this. Okay, I paid for this DLC where Sekiro's naked, balls and cock out. They're huge, by the way. There's that mini game in the first segment where it put my avatar in the game. You have to. Don't worry about it. I thought you had played the DLC, but you didn't. Apparently, we played different DLCs for this game.
I think you're going to a different.
We played different DLCs, dude. I don't know where you get yours from. I paid $50 for this. But what was your favorite part of the game? Either level or enemy or combo.
Ishin, the final boss.
Yeah, that's a good pick. He was super cool. He's up there for like one of the best final bosses for me. I mean, you watched me do it on stream, and it took me like an hour, maybe more, to finally get through the entire segment and then beat him. And I was so excited. I jumped out of my chair and I threw my fucking headset off and I was pumping my fists. It was such like an epic feeling to overcome that. It was an amazing final boss fight for me.
Because you have to be so on, like you were saying, that
Yeah.
it's just a great place to be for so long, and you just like build up all this tension, and then you finally win. So here's the thing: so you have to be perfect to beat some of these bosses. And so what happened when you beat the final boss? You beat his first two phases. I think you might have got hit once, or did you get hit not at all?
I don't think I did get hit at all. I'd have to go back and look, but you're exactly right. And the thing about that is it's satisfying in such a weird way, because you do have to be perfect. So I'm like cutting it close and almost getting there and like almost getting there and getting further and further, and then taking a step back and fucking up and making sure I need to be perfect. And then when you do it, I just like did not make a single mistake, and you beat him so effortlessly almost that you're like, oh damn, like what just happened?
Yeah, because when you're perfect, it builds up. Like if you keep parrying moves that they're like in a row, it keeps building up how much damage you're doing to his posture bit by bit, and then you just hit this wave and you just never make a mistake, and they die so much faster than you expect. You're like, oh shit, the phase is over. I didn't get hit,
Yeah.
and I found that happening so often as I play. I beat the game 4 times to get all the endings, so got, I was just going through bosses without getting hit by the end. And
Very
that's
yeah.
the mode they have in the boss rush. You have to beat a bunch of bosses in a row, and once you learn their weaknesses, you could do like quick kills on bosses. So you could just like do all the right. You could use mortal draw and divine. What is it called? Divine confetti
Yeah.
and all the Yamagachis stuff to power yourself up, and you could kill a boss in like 30 seconds. Like you can skip the first phase of the Guardian Ape.
No, that's pretty wild. I didn't realize that.
A bunch. Yeah, it's that Yamaguchi's. It reduces your HP by half, but it gives you this huge boost in posture damage.
I think I think for me, my actual favorite point, and this is gonna sound strange, that part where you're going to Gunfort and you fight Snake Eyes.
Oh yeah, that's your favorite part of the game?
So that was like where it really clicked. Snake Eyes was the one. He was like my Genichiro 2.0, where I got to him and I still was like having trouble parrying. I remember saying in that fight, like, what the fuck? Why is my timing off? Like, why can't I hit this? And it took me forever. It took me like 20 tries to beat that guy. But I was so determined. I was like, I can do this. It's not an impossibility. There's really nothing stopping you from beating these people except for executing properly. So I was like, I can beat this. I can do this right now. I just have to fucking figure him out. And, on one hand, it's like, do I want to spend 20 tries on one mini boss figuring out his patterns and shit like that? And I just said yes. And when I finally beat him, I was like, this fucking rules. That was like another moment where the game clicked for me. I was like, I can go wherever I want as long as I tap in and I'm the best at this game. And then you have to fight Snake Eyes again later on when you go down to the swamp section, and I absolutely demolished him.
Yeah.
My second time down. So there was like this moment for me where I was like, again, you get to Genichiro and you beat him. You're like, oh, that kind of clicked. And then, but it's sort of like it doesn't like let off the gas, like I said, but you don't really have like another check like that. But for me, I couldn't beat this guy. He's like a gun and he does a ton of damage, and I probably wasn't supposed to be there at that point. And there's like a run up to him and this and that. And I was like another thing, like I just wasn't used to it. And then when I beat that, it sort of put me over the edge, and I was like, oh, I can do whatever I want. Just got to fucking learn it and do it. And then, yeah, you fight Snake Eyes again in a, I think it must be the same. I don't know if it's the same person or not. I don't know how it works, but you go into like the lower sections or whatever, and there's like a kind of swampy area, and you go down there and there's another Snake Eyes, and I beat him the first time just because I had known his patterns. I knew what he's going to do. I knew when to block and when to move and everything. And so that was like, for me, looking back, I liked Ishin a lot. It was a super fun fight. I love it. It's definitely like way up there, but I had that similar moment, like again with Snake Eyes, but it was like earlier, and it was like this check for me where I was like, dude, you just got to be better. It was really like a get good at the game and you will succeed. I know it sounds dumb, but
A lot of games don't care if you're good at them.
yeah,
That's the thing. So like it's worth saying.
yeah, it really is. Yeah. So I mean, I would urge everyone to play it. I really think it is an incredible game. It's it's definitely up there for me. After playing it, I don't have a lot of games on in my top list, and very rarely will I play a new one and say this needs to be up there. But Sekiro is like a really complete game. One of the only games I've ever, and I'm a harsh critic, one of the only games I've ever even touched New Game Plus on at all. And I played it like immediately. I beat it and I was like, I just want to like keep playing Sekiro. Like I need more of this. I've never like a lot of games I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for it to be done. You know, like can we just like, I get halfway, 3/4 of the way through, I just skip everything and then just blast through like the main section. Like I just want this to be over. And for Sekiro, I beat it after even that hard fight, even spending an hour fighting the final boss, and then I just turned it back on. So I kind of want more of this. Can we do it again?
Yeah, it's a brilliant game.
Mm-hmm.
It cements From Software to me as like who can compete with these guys?
I mean, how do they even come up with that stuff? Right? It's
Yeah,
like
like it's all brilliant. Everything's
they
perfectly executed.
it's one of the only people I trust. Like they know what they want to do, and they really like make good games.
Yeah. Now they're coming out with like Armored Core 6 or something.
Yeah, I've never played an Armored Core in my life, but I'm considering getting it.
I'll definitely give it a shot just based off From Software's.
I saw this picture the other day, and I wasn't sure if it was like a joke or not, but it was like when the Armored Core enthusiasts come back out, and it was like a bunch of people playing like I don't know, one of the earlier Armored Cores, like 2 or 3 or something like that, and they hold the controller facing away from them.
What the fuck?
I don't know if it's like something that people were doing when they were playing Armored Core back then. I don't know if it's like got a really insane control scheme or something, but they had like the buttons facing away from them, and there was people. There was several pictures like this, so I don't know what the fuck it was, but it was really interesting. I'll have to look it up. But so yeah, I trust them implicitly to make any game. They really take like the I don't want to say they take chances, but like the avenues that they go down in their gameplays, like it just highlights the gameplay, and no one else is really doing that. Like I said, they're putting in fucking interactive cutscenes, and they're putting in stupid, boring ass travel that no one gives a shit about. This is like you have an instant teleport to the area you want to go, and then it's just full on combat and good combat. And also, let's not forget they do have incredible set pieces. The part where, again, we've already mentioned spoilers, but the part where you finally get to kill the fucking snake, dude, I legitimately said out loud at the time, I was like, this might be the best game ever, because you want to talk about interactive cutscenes and set pieces. It's like, this is the best it ever gets. It built it up over the entire course of the game. The snake, you have 2 interactions with it earlier. It's extremely deadly. There's nothing you can do to it. It fucking kills you instantly. It's gigantic, and you have to sneak around. And then the third time, when you get to this fucking back path, you're above it. You don't realize either. The way that they introduce stuff like this, obviously it's got that cool, Dark Souls feeling where you walk out onto a cliff face and there's just a giant majestic view and the graphics are incredible and you're just like in a fucking mountain in Japan, in fake Japan somewhere, and it looks amazing. And then so you come out of like a cliff opening, you step onto a plank, you're like, why is it leading me here? At this point in the game too, you're probably like 3/4 of the way through the game or more. I'm not even sure if you have to kill the snake. I don't think you do.
You don't have to kill the snake.
And so you're like, you're like looking around because every part of the map has like led you to something before. It doesn't really go to a dead end, and you don't really have to turn around very often. There's usually like something you could find or a way to advance. So you go to it. A cave opens up. There's a little cliffside. You walk out onto a plank. You look around. There's nothing up. There's nothing in front of you. There's nothing to the side. You look down, and there's just the fucking snake sitting there. And I just jumped. Dude, you take a leap of faith. The the kill bead appears on his head, you fucking have an insanely cool kill, and then you're standing there as he's writhing and literal blood rains down on you, and then you're covered in blood for a while. You know,
Yeah, it's extremely elite. It's like the greatest moment
it
ever
really is.
for Snake.
To have that
They
as
do
a
a great job
fucking
with that. I thought that might be the weakest part of the game because it's like you have to be stealthy and like sneak around because the
Mhm.
snake is trying to kill you. But uh, it's very short, thankfully. So if you don't like that, you don't have to sneak past the snake for very long.
Yeah, it is a
Even then, I
super.
don't think it's poorly done. I think they do a good job.
Yes, a lot of games have a very similar like component, and it sucks balls. But not only is like the stealth good in this game because all it is just crouch walk, and it's actually a pretty good speed, which is cool. Like you want to do stealth in Metal Gear, you have to fucking crawl around on your belly like a dumb piece of shit. But it's like it's quick. But then also they do these things like the way that they do their set pieces. You want to talk about set pieces in games? There's like several points when the snake is chasing you when you finally get into like a rock face or something and he can't chase you where he like slams his head into the opening to try and get to you, and it's like it was like legitimately terrifying. I was afraid of this giant fucking snake because they like it was loud and he's shrieking and the walls are shaking and there's rocks falling down and it's like and he's like very animalistically slamming his head into the wall. And so that's like the first thing you have with him, the first setup, and you're just terrified little dude against a giant snake. And there's another one where you have to go through the cave to get something. I actually don't know if you have to do that the second time as well. That might
You
be.
don't have.
Yeah. So you really only have to see him the one time. So it's very interesting they put stuff in that you do not have to do, but it has such an incredible build up. The second time you face him, you go through this cave. Oh, actually, maybe you could shed some light on this for me here. There's like, do you know what I'm talking about? The second time you go through the cave and you get to the end and there's like a little monkey there, and then he's like guarding that temple.
Yeah.
How are you supposed to get past that? Because I just jumped up and he hit me once, but then it didn't knock me off the cliff, and then I just ran past him.
Yeah, I saw that on your stream.
I could not
I was,
figure out how to get past him.
oh, damn, I didn't know you could just do that. I was like, you got so lucky that you didn't just die. It's
Yeah,
supposed to kill you.
I know because it did kill me the one time.
There's a couple of ways you can do it. Another way you can do it is if you use the Mist Raven prosthetic that lets you like
Oh,
teleport when you take a hit. You can
I've never
jump
used
past.
that.
But the intended way is to use Puppeteer on the monkey, and he'll jump up and make a bunch of noise, and the snake will jump across and eat him, and he's that's in a different direction, and that gives you an opening
Mm.
to grapple up and get in and get the fresh
So
surfaces
I
from
didn't
it.
have puppeteer at this point, so I would just kill the monkey and then I'd be like, okay. And then I just grappled over to him. And the one time I got, like, my body just didn't slide off the thing, and I had just enough time to run past him. And then I was like, yeah, I'll find out the way to do that later. But I never did. Yeah, so like that's a super cool segment. You have to sneak past him twice. You have to obviously do that part, and then the next time you see him, you just get to fucking kill him. And it's this culmination of something that was like you didn't expect it, because why would you? He's just been a terrifying monstrosity blocking your path several times, and then you get this incredible, awesome, like power fantasy moment where you fucking kill him, but you also do it in a super cool way where it like takes the camera in a very awesome angle and you run your blade through his skull and you split it and you cut him open and the giant snake is writhing in pain and he's wrapped around a rock and then it literally rains blood and you get covered in it. And I was like, there's really no better cutscene. That was the moment where I was like, God damn, this is a fucking cool game. They let you kill this snake after all the trouble he put you through, and they do it in fucking incredible fashion.
Yeah, sometimes like that, and the other dope thing about like those kill moments, all of them throughout the game with all the bosses, is you would think killing someone twice would be like, why am I killing this guy twice? Instead, it's really cool because
Oh
like
yeah.
you stab him and you do like a cool turn, and then you fucking dash at him and you cut his whole goddamn head off or whatever.
Yeah.
You always do something extremely awesome. Something also very cool about your character is when you kill like a regular enemy, your like go-to way is to stab them in the throat, which I really like.
Yeah.
Like if you stealth kill a guy, you'll like grab him by the shoulder and lift him up and line the katana up to his throat for a second and then just push it through. It's insanely brutal.
Yeah, they
You just
did like
brutally murder everyone.
it's super cool. It was like someone again, the guy doing the animations, like it could have been this corny animation like from an anime where you like slice a guy once across the chest and he falls down. And someone was like, "No, dude, just put the blade through his throat." And they're like, "Yes,
Yeah.
very cool. Go animate that right now."
Yeah, it's just so it's you feel extremely powerful when you're good at it. It reminds me of Devil May Cry 3, and maybe the new one has this. There's a style for Dante called Royal Guard where you can just press the style button circle usually, and it's just block. But if you get it perfectly, you build up this crazy meter, and then you can expend all that meter to do a ton of damage. And it feels like that, but instead of it being like a style that like you have to choose between that and air dash or whatever the fuck it was in Devil May Cry 3, it's just that's your block button. Like that's just
Yeah.
there all the time. And I always really liked Royal Guard in Devil May Cry 3. The game reminds me a lot of Devil May Cry 3, even though your attacks are very limited. You kind of just swing your sword and stuff.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of extra weapons you can use.
You really do just kind of swing your sword. You don't really get like a single combo. And you have attacks you can cycle through, but you really are just like spamming RB and he'll just like slice at them. So it is weird. You're right where it does liken a lot of that Devil May Cry vibe. It is sort of a style fighter. It's just a different type of it.
Yeah.
Um, but going back for 1 second, a lot of people they champion weird stuff in video games. I bring it up to you all the time. Like someone posted a video of like the Last of Us remake, and Joel's like walking over a carpet and it like crumples under his feet the way a carpet actually would. And I was like, I couldn't give less of a fuck. This game was made for interior designers or something.
Oh man.
And I was like,
Yeah, they're like, oh, look at the detail.
yeah, they're like,
Like,
oh, the
fuck.
realistic carpet detail when you walk through this broken house that you're in for 10 seconds. And I was like, you know what's cool when there's 25 different kill animations in Sekiro and you don't even see all of them because you're not cool enough to get all the kills.
Yeah.
Like there's sometimes like ones that would just be like popping up that were very neat. I've killed a guy in a different way that I've never killed him that way before. I was like, oh, I've never saw this animation until right now. The guys that wear the purple like robes and they like do the Ishin overhead stab at you or whatever. When you first, it's like when you're on your way to Genichiro, they're like the Ashina warrior dudes. You like you can kill them obviously regular with a regular death blow from breaking their posture. You can do the behind death blow. You can do the Mikiri counter death blow, I think, to them. And then one time I was doing something, and like I might have like I don't know why, but I got a different death blow. And like they're cool. Like he like the Mikiri counter, you'll step on the blade, and then you like if it's for a death blow, you like he like grabs their head and comes from behind them and fucking stabs them in the neck. And when it's the regular death blow, obviously, like stabs them through the chest and then across the head, cuts their fucking head off or whatever. There's like so many different ones. And it's like, I appreciate that I don't have the same, kill thing every time because why not focus on the animation you're going to see 1,000 times throughout the game be cool and varied and you never get sick of it instead of,
Yeah.
I couldn't give a shit how the paper walls break when I cut my sword through them. I don't care if they dissolve in a pretty way. I don't give a fuck. But I do think
Yeah,
it's
who
cool
cares?
that you have a million cool fucking killing animations because it's the thing you see nonstop throughout the game. Oh, another thing about games that I really love about Sekiro is I hate games that have like lag on their moves, like real bad lag. Like when you swing like that's the only bad part about like you play Dark Souls and you have like a big sword and there's this big lag between swinging your sword and shit like that. Sekiro, like you could jump and slash and it takes a fucking second and there's not really like landing lag when you come down, like just briefly, you know what I mean? They don't tack on all this landing lag. You could jump in the air and throw one of your shinobi prosthetics and it takes no time. You can use it at the push of a button and it just goes off instantly. And everything is like that. It's like you just press the button and it just works and it goes quick and it's this very fast-paced thing. And it's such a, to me, it's so premier to have that because there's so many games that's like, Yeah, I talk about it in Apex all the time. It's like you want to throw a fucking grenade in Apex, you press the D-pad right, you pull a grenade out, and then you hold the trigger and you cock your arm back, and it shows a line of where the grenade's gonna go, and then you throw it, and there's like a delay between the animation of when you throw it and when you actually go back to pulling out another grenade. And you have to press another button to fucking pull your gun back out, and there's an animation switching back to your gun. And they're not quick. It's not like the original Halo where you just press a button and you have another gun out and you can shoot instantly. It's like they're for some reason they're like, you know what people love? Standing still while the enemy shoots at them, while you're switching guns like a fucking degenerate. Like no one likes that. So I was like, I'm so glad that there's a game to play because I'm fucking sick of games. There's so many games of this. Like I don't want to sit around and wait for dumb bullshit. I like to press the button and instantly throw out a shuriken or a firecracker or a flame or whatever the billion things you could do. Oh, you know what I thought was funny too? To prepare for this, I watched this guy's video and he was talking about how he likes the difficulty in Sekiro, and I thought it was very funny because I consider myself an elite gamer. I consider myself a better gamer than a majority of gamers, and there was a part in his video where he's like, oh, I can't remember what he's talking about exactly about like the difficulty versus like Dark Souls. And he's like, sometimes in the game, they really make you do certain things. Like when you fight who is that guy that does the magic spells that you saw me fight? The Shichiman warrior or whatever?
Yeah.
Whatever his name is. Yeah. Shichiman warrior, whatever it is. He was like fighting him and he was using the umbrella hat thing, and he's like, or when you get to the Shichiman warrior and you're basically forced to use the umbrella hat. And I thought it was so funny that this guy thought his only method was to use the umbrella hat, and the only 2 times I've beaten that warrior, I did not realize that I could use divine confetti, and it took me like a half hour to beat him, and I just thought that was the way you did it. And I beat him. I beat him without that. I beat him with no bonuses or items or anything twice because I thought that was the way you did it. And I just figured out a way to run around his attacks. I was like, this is very hard. But I was like, well, at this point I was so bought in on the game. I was like, yeah, they just made a very hard optional fight. I'll just go ahead and do it. And then you were like, yeah, if you use Divine Confetti, he takes more damage and you can block all of his projectiles. And I was like, I didn't do that. And I still beat him. But it was very funny to me to watch this very popular YouTuber say, yeah, this is the only way that you can do this. And no one gave him any pushback in like any of the comments. That's the funniest thing I think of all time. Every time I see like I have a hot take about a game, it's never what anyone else's is. They're always like complaining about stuff like that. Oh yeah, I hate how you have to use the hat against this guy. I was like, I probably didn't even have that weapon at the time, and I didn't use it once, and I beat the guy without that or Divine Confetti. I just beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, the umbrella, here's the thing, I don't think I've ever used it. I think I tried to use it against the Demon of Hatred, the optional boss.
Yeah.
But it was just like clunky and I didn't know how the fuck it worked, so I don't really use it at all. I was like, why would I use that umbrella to block? I'll just block better.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's that the umbrella is kind of like easy mode. You can just have it out. Like if you press the button, what are those things that you use to Shinobi prosthetics? The resource?
The spirit emblems.
Spirit emblems.
I have like a max of 20 of them.
So you would like press right trigger or whatever to use it, and if you held it down, you would have the helmet out at all times. And then if you just pressed LB while you had the helmet out, it would just use 2 spirit emblems to do a block, but the timing was really easy and you wouldn't lose posture. So it was basically like if you had spirit emblems, it was like an easy way to cheese a round of a boss. I just never used it either because I didn't care.
I've seen people use it, watching people do like damageless runs of bosses.
Yeah.
And, like for Genichiro's floating passage, there's 2 of them that I've seen discussion. I've seen people arguing in the YouTube comments of these videos saying you can't parry one of these hits in this floating passage. And it's not true. I've done it before, but it's just really hard. I can't do it consistently. So these people that do these like speed runs and challenge runs of the boss fight will use the umbrella for those 2 hits. Like they'll pull the umbrella out every time that he does floating passage. They'll pull the umbrella out so they can go damageless or whatever the fuck. I'm the same as you. I was like, well, why would I use this when like I feel like I was like if I use this, what's up? I didn't use it a single time.
I used it a handful of times, but I remember it was like when my posture was all the way up, I would just pull it out to like block a couple attacks so I didn't break posture and die. But again, there was a point where I was like, yeah, well, I could just parry better and I won't have to use it. And B, I felt like if I relied on it too much, it's going to make me worse at the game, and I didn't want to lose my luster, so I just didn't use it.
Yeah, it's great that you don't have to use it, because then you can
You don't really have to
figure
use
out that
any Shinobi prosthetics. Pretty much every single one that I used, someone would be watching me in stream, and then they'd watch me do a fight, and then afterwards they'd go, "Yeah, you should use this prosthetic. It makes that way easier." And I was like, "I had no fucking clue. I don't give a shit."
yeah, you don't have to use any of them, I don't think.
No, I never did. I was like, I mean, I used them from time to time, but I really, the one, honestly, my favorite was like the fucking shuriken. I would just throw it at people, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, we killed dogs in like one hit.
Yeah, it
That
killed
was
a lot
very
of stuff
sweet.
in one hit, but it would also like fuck up bosses, like when they were. It's definitely underrated. Even like Genichiro at the end and Ishin, they'd be like running at you, and you could like throw it and hit them a couple times with the shuriken, and I'd be like, this is actually not bad. You can keep their posture up, like when it starts ticking down, you can get some more damage on it and shit. I didn't
They
really,
do a good job making every enemy does have a weakness against like prosthetics of some
yeah,
kind. The Snake Eyes guys are weak against the short sword because they so you can poison them
yeah.
with it every time.
I mean,
So
they
like
added those are all very cool. It's another thing in the game that I love where the power ups they give you are very cool and it gives you a reason to explore because what was there's a game I talked about before where you'd like explore and you get to the end of even like Elden Ring, you get to like the end of a fucking dungeon and I'd get like a magic spell and I'd be like, yeah, I don't really want to explore anymore because I'm just finding items for builds I don't use. But in this, you
yeah,
never get anything other than your main weapon. And all the Shinobi prosthetics, it's like, oh, I'd get an upgrade material for the the axe. Let me try it out. Oh, now it burns people because I found this cool thing. So they were all neat, but it was like you don't need these, but they are cool and they can make some things easier. And I guess the axe is required. I don't know if the axe is required for a couple enemies. Can you beat the shield enemies without breaking their shield?
yeah. If you're much stronger than them, you can. If you have more attack power than you would normally have,
Yeah.
and also you
Back
can like
attacks.
lay out their shield bash, and you can deflect their shield, and
Yeah.
that'll deal posture damage to them. So like you can kill them just by blocking, but you have to bait out their attack. So I think you have to like attack their shield until they try to hit you and deflect it. But you only have to do that a few times and they'll die.
They also add like the what are the skill trees that you like learn abilities on? Those are fucking cool too because you get the passives and the regular. I can't remember what they're called. The
Uh, Esoteric arts.
esoteric arts, correct? So there's like a one that I learned that's where you get the. Again, you could probably do the game without learning a single esoteric art. They're definitely helpful, but I'm not sure anything in the game is really needed. Um, but a cool thing is you get a lot of it felt like what would be a cool thing to have in game, and they're like, what about if you have a mid-air death blow? And they're like, yeah, just put it on the esoteric thing art chart. And then some people, if you're both in midair and you just press the attack button, you can just get a death blow. And it's rare, but it's like, and there's like a couple enemies that I think they designed you to use it against, but there's like, it's just very cool to do. It's just a cool thing. Like, there's no reason to have it in the game. Like, upgrade things are, and we say it a lot too, but there's a lot of games that are like, oh yeah, this upgrade piece is plus 2% to this skill. I'm like, this is like, you'll never notice this, and it's intangible and boring. And then the upgrade thing that isn't even needed in Sekiro is just a cool thing. It's like, yeah, if you're both in midair, you can just kill them instantly. That's neat.
Yeah, it's very cool. And there's like mini bosses that it works against.
Uh-huh.
Like you can do it to the Shichimen warrior.
I never
They
did
have an
that to
attack
them.
where they jump up in the air and they like
They
spray
like float around, yeah.
death skulls at you that are purple.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're doing that, if you need divine confetti up, but if they're doing that and then you jump at them, you can just kill one of their health bars for free.
That's really dope.
And also the guy that throws lightning at you in Fountainhead Palace,
Oh yeah,
because he'll,
if you're close
'cause he'll
enough.
he's
Well,
jumping up to charge lightning. You can just dash at him,
and
jump, and just
that one's
he only has one health bar too.
that one's especially cool because it's usually way more beneficial to do the lightning counter once you learn how to do it, especially because the guy in Fountainhead is usually surrounded by people when he does it, and you could hit all of them with lightning when you retaliate it. So to even have that as a thing on him is like this is just for if you're like trying to flex and have a good time. That's like such a cool thing to add in, you know? Like why would they program it in that you could do the death blow on him? It's so rare that you would even want to.
Yeah, so few enemies jump, but when you get to Fountainhead, a lot of them jump,
Yeah.
and so you can just fuck all those enemies up with the midair death blow.
They
And it's
also
cool with midair death blow because you have to buy that from a shop. It's not like on your trees. at
Yeah,
all.
it just like adds it
So,
as a thing that you've learned.
and combat arts are also very cool, but you don't really need to use those either. Like I think you used Ichimonji the whole time.
Yeah, once I got it, I used Ichimonji in the double one. I was just using
Yeah,
like Whirlwind before that. The only reason I didn't use them is because again, I was just like scared to die, and I was like, I don't want to commit to any attacks. I just want to attack you and parry. It's a testament to how good the core gameplay of the game is because I was like, I don't want to use these because I can just beat them if I attack and parry well enough, and I don't want to use these abilities.
yeah, you would just use Ichimonji for like a big punish opportunity on certain
Yeah,
boss, and that's dope because like I feel like that's what that move is for. It's like, oh, here's your kind of a charge up attack. Go ahead, use it during a big punish window. Makes sense. But the rest of them are all, if you want to explore and use them, they're there, and they're all interesting and useful.
yeah. I mean, I did
Some of
use
them are just cool looking.
I did use Mortal Arts.
Real
I think is that the one with the blade, the red blade thing.
Oh,
That one
Mortal
was pretty.
Draw, yeah.
Yeah, Mortal Draw. That one was pretty devastating. I used it a handful of times, but it's slow, and I was just my mindset is just like if I'm going to use something slow, I'm going to use it as a punish. And every once in a while, I would get a lot of value out of Ichimonji because every time you would hit, even if they would block your blade with it, it would restore posture. So sometimes I would just let it rip, and then the enemy would have to block it, and I would get some of my posture back in a tense moment, which was elite. And that's another thing about the combat where it's like when it gets to this point where your posture is about to break and like theirs is about to break, or they're just like hammering you with attacks, and you either have to A, fucking parry perfectly, or B, try and run away, or the secret third option where you just keep attacking and hope that for the best. But
Yeah. Yeah, but if you play defense, what I love about the game is if you play defense, it's just as strong as playing offense a lot of the time.
yeah, if you can
So
hit the
I
parry, yeah,
yeah, I've had times where it's like I have no HP left and I'm at full posture, but because sometimes I don't know if you notice this, but if it's like a strong attack, you can deflect it and you still take posture damage, but you'll never get your posture broken if you deflect it. So you could be have full posture and no HP, and as long as you're perfect, you still won't die.
yeah,
So you would just get in those situations where it's like, well, I have to be perfect now or I'm dead.
yeah. Well,
And
it
like if
exactly goes
I'm if I keep defending perfectly, he's dead. And it's like
exactly.
super close. It's
It's
super fun.
it's that's such a great moment as we were talking about earlier, where it's like if you we have that moment in the blink of an eye where I go fuck, my posture's full. I can see him about to do a multi combo attack. I either like run away, try and reset, or do whatever, or do I just fucking commit to parrying this and I can probably break his posture back if I get a couple of them good. I found myself a lot of times going, I could deflect this and just committing to doing it, and then sometimes deflecting it, and it's one of the best feelings in the world where you hit two of them and then he gets the death blow dot on him and you pull it off, and I'm like, dude, that was so fucking incredible. That was like amazing.
Yeah, they do a great job with everything in the game, really. I don't
Yeah.
think it has any real weak parts at all. I love
No.
stealth games as well, and you could play it very stealthy. Like if you find the parts in between the bosses hard, like if you find a particular part hard, it's like the way Dark Souls is designed, where it's like if you find Dark Souls 1 a little bit too hard, we'll play a magic build and just shoot them from really far away, or use a bow and arrow to like snipe one enemy at a time and draw them and fight them one by like abusing the point where they turn around. Like you can make the game as easy as you really need it to be at the end of the day. The way you do that in Sekiro is with stealth. If you know the enemy layout of an area, you could sneak around and just stealth kill the whole zone. Like that very first boss you mentioned at the beginning, the like warlord guy that you fight
Mm-hmm.
for the first time, and then you could sneak around behind that guy and get a stealth kill and take out a whole life bar for free.
Yeah. You can do that with a lot of people, surprisingly. There's very few enemies where you like walk into a room and they aggro you. There's like a lot where you can go in and get a stealth kill off. And it was very satisfying. I remember even going back when you do the tutorial, you like sneak across a cliff face and you shimmy around and then you jump up into a room and it does a cutscene and then you walk out of the door. And when you go back there later, there's like a guy up there with a spear. It's like a specialty mini boss guy. And if you sneak in the same, instead of running up the hill at him, there's like a bunch of enemies along the way. So you have to kill a couple, but then also not be seen by him. And if you sneak around and go back up the same way, he's just standing with his back to the door. And if you come back out the same way and you have the patience to do it, you get a free, death blow on him, and you take away one of his health counters right away. And that was how I ended up beating him. It was very useful. Um, And you actually remember, and this actually goes back to when I was talking about Snake Eyes when I was fighting him, and you were saying like, yeah, if you just run away, he'll go back to his spot, and you can sneak up from behind where you're not supposed to be and get a death blow. And I was like, yeah, I'll just not do that, and I just kept fighting him. I was like, I don't want
Yeah,
to.
yeah, those guys are hard, man. So
I like
that's
him, dude.
when I started going through and I was just like, oh man, I'm just gonna sneak past everybody and kill all these guys from behind. Because at my later playthroughs, I'd sprint through the whole area. I'd like go right past her, and then go over the cliff and cross the bridge where they're shooting at you, and then go to the next uh, bonfire thing.
Yeah, the
And then I
bonfire.
would, yeah, well,
Dark Souls
the
is
silver
poisoning our
title.
fucking minds, dude.
Yeah, it's definitely a bonfire.
Every checkpoint is a
But this game
bonfire.
is very differently played from Dark Souls, which is so. I thought it was so solidifying of a game for From Software because they made a game with the same like satisfaction from beating a boss, but I think even better, and they made it in a totally different way. It's like they looked at Dark Souls and they were like, well, this game is like the original Dark Souls, especially, where it's like, well, you're walking around with a shield. Like most people are just walking around with their shield up.
Sword
It's
and
a very
board, yeah.
defensive-oriented game. It's like you're rolling around, or you have your shield up, going around every corner. And they were like, let's make an offensive-focused game. And I think they did it beautifully. I think it's
I don't know if I'll be able
underrated
to
still.
go back to a Dark Souls or Elden Ring style game where it is so measured and calculated and slow, and half of the boss battles are you like standing still waiting for him as he's like plodding up to you about to do like a big attack, and you're like, taking stamina damage when you block it with your shield. And I was like, I don't know if I can go back to a game like that. Sekiro was such a masterpiece and so well crafted and so action packed and action oriented. That's like, I love those games. I still think they're good games. It's like I don't know. Like you know what I mean? I've sort of spoiled myself by playing it and becoming so enamored with it. I'm like, I'm sure I will be able to go back to them when I play it. But right now, with the taste fresh in my mouth, I don't know that I'm like I'm like anti Dark Souls for just this 5 seconds, but it's like I don't know, man. Like thinking about it is like you know what I mean. Like think about like the fucking Bell Gargoyle, or think about Margit, dude. Like imagine going back to that fight after doing Sekiro. Any fight, name any boss in Sekiro, dude. Imagine going back to Margit after fighting Genichiro, dude. Like it's just like I don't know if I can do it right now. I might need a breather from Dark Souls games.
Yeah, I love all the bosses in Sekiro. The Great Ape fight was amazing. I think one of the most beautiful things about it is, at least for me, the second form, like in his second phase, where his head was cut off and shit. He had a sword then,
Yeah.
so it was a lot. I found that a lot easier because he was in the giant monkey. I was like, well, I've been fighting sword people all game. I know how to block a sword, but when the fuck do I deflect this guy's
Well, the
thing?
timings are weird, but you can legitimately deflect everything. You can deflect when he
You could,
farts on you.
yeah, you could learn it, but I found it so much easier to learn the second phase because he has a sword. So it was like
Isn't it
every
so cool that
timing made more sense to me.
that's such a fucking brutal, psychotic fight, and he also poops and farts on you? Isn't that
Yeah,
amazing?
it's brilliant.
If they put
It's
like, how do they get that in there? No one talks enough about how this guy poops and farts on you, dude. It's like one of my favorite things. I think more enemies should have poop and fart based attacks. And dare I say it, who's going to be the first developer to make a cum based attack?
I'm just waiting for Scat Souls, dude.
The Sketzel is gonna be fucking dope. You're exactly right. I guess Conker's Bad Fur Day. You fight the Great Mighty Pooh. Do you remember that? Did you ever play Conker's Bad Fur Day?
I don't think I had it, but I watched. I think I watched a couple people play it.
Dude, Conker's Bad Fur Day on the N64. There's a part where you like go into a volcano or something. And you just fight an opera singing giant pile of diarrhea shit. I remember the
That's
song he
great.
sings. It's really well done. Conker's Bad Fur Day is a cool game, but it's the Great Mighty Pooh. Dude. You just fight a pile of shit. Not enough games doing that, but they do that very obviously tastelessly. And I don't want to say it's tasteful when you fight the great. What's the ape's name? Is it the great ape? The great
Ape.
the what?
Guardian Ape.
Guardian Ape, that's it. He was super cool. I loved fighting him. Oh, you know what? And something I like about games, and this really this is where it started to do stuff like that for me, is they have like a lot of things that they put in thematically. So I think when they have a really interesting theme across the game and they tie gameplay elements to it, for me, if you don't, it's super tough to do. If you don't tie gameplay elements to it, I completely understand. If you do, it is so hard to do and so hard to do well that it really enhances the game for me. So Guardian Ape, you fight him, insanely difficult fight. You cut his head off with the very cool finishing blow thing, and you're like, neat. You walk away. The big surprise for everyone. I unfortunately had seen videos of this by the time I played it, so I knew it was going to happen the first time I fought him. But he gets back up and he holds his head in his hand and he pulls out a sword and you fight a headless guardian ape with a sword. And you're like, well, why is he like? They don't really have undead people in the game up to this point. And then you're like, why is he? What the fuck is happening? And then later on, you fight him, and it happens again. You fight him again, and he has his head off or whatever already. And there's a couple more people, and then you get to a temple, like the monk temple, and there's just like dudes that don't die. You kill them, and they just get back up. And so like throughout the game, you just don't know. And then you get the mortal blade, and it says like, and the mortal blade obviously ties into the fact that since the divine heritage, you can resurrect. The blood of the divine heir allows you to resurrect. That's like, shadows die twice, as you can resurrect once in a game. Oh, we really even mentioned, for as far as balance, you can die entirely, have your entire health bar depleted, and resurrect once, and like the game is still balanced and difficult with this built into it, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So that's like obviously the thematic portion I'm talking about, where you can resurrect, and then you get the mortal blade, and no one can draw it because you die when you take it out of its sheath. You die, you stand back up, and then you're able to keep it. Very cool. But then you realize the mortal blade also has like some text on it that says that it kills things like that cannot otherwise be killed. And the first thing I think of is to go back to the temple, and when you kill those undead creatures, he like pulls the one attacks you with like a centipede or something. He like pulls a centipede out of their head and stabs it and kills them. And then later on, when you go back to the second Guardian Ape fight, you can do the same thing. And so that really was like this. When they talk about lore in these games, I don't really pay attention when they deliver it in certain ways. They do it in this game great, where there's very few actual cutscenes. All the like lore of the game is delivered just by talking to people from here and there. But then this is a really cool moment where there's undead creatures. You're technically undead. You get a blade that can kill the undead, and then you kill this like centipede thing that is clearly used, like controlling these creatures like a parasite. And then it just ends. They don't really explain what the fucking centipede is or where it comes from. It just takes over a handful of things in the game. You get a blade that can kill it, and it's this really cool thematic moment that ties everything together completely without words. They just deliver this thing to you, and then you can kill these people. It's completely unexplained, but it's super interesting because they just like it's sort of like how a movie does it, where they introduce something, they don't explain it for a long time, and then the explanation itself, being tied to gameplay and items that you're picking up, is like the explanation is this wondrous moment of like completion, it's like leading notes, musically, like up to this point, and then you finally get that last one, and you feel whole. And so for me, I'm not sure if you feel the same way. For me, that stuff really clicks in a big way, where like when I went back to the Guardian Ape room and he was just dead there, but his body was twitching, and then you go up to it and you kill the thing, and then like you get like a defeated message. And I was like, oh, this is like super interesting. And they just leave a lot of stuff like that on the table that you can completely miss.
Yeah, they do a great job. You can also, against Guardian Ape in the first fight, there's a sequence of parries you can do where he'll do a big attack and he'll like fall down in front of you if you deflect that. And it's very noticeable where he like slumps, like you get a huge block and he'll deflect. There's great sound design in this game. So the sound of that block is just so satisfying. And it's like this big hollow strike, and he falls over. And if in that moment you use the spear item, you have it set so that you could attack and then pull back, you'll pull the centipede out of the hole in his neck, and it'll do a ton of posture damage, and then you can attack him a few extra times.
I did not know that. I've never used it. Like I said, I didn't use a single prosthetic on the Guardian Ape. I really, honestly, I think one of my biggest talents as a gamer is I am incredibly stubborn, and I'm also quite brutish in my methods, and I really just do the basic things, and I bang my head against the wall, and I eventually succeed. And that was how I beat Guardian Ape.
I didn't know that either until I saw someone do it on YouTube. So I think most people probably wouldn't think like that was like the spear is like why would I use the spear? I could just use my sword.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing. I would never use almost any of the prosthetics. I would try to use the shuriken and the axe if they had shields.
Yeah, I
Like
used
that
the
was pretty
spear
much
a
it.
handful of times. Whenever I had an opening, I would just really default to using my combat art, so I didn't really care about prosthetics a lot. And sometimes they'd buy you some time. Like fireworks were actually probably my favorite at the end of the game because they stunned a lot of enemies and they just sort of you could use it midair on a retreat or on a pull up, and it did buy you some time to get some extra stuff in. So that was like one of my favorites. But the idea that they put it in, I love when developers put stuff in the game that you don't have to do because it feels very rewarding to figure it out on your own. A lot of games, I'll like go down a secret pathway, find an item, and be like, this is so cool. I wonder how many people found this. I feel very rewarded and awesome for finding this secret thing. And later on, I find out that it's mandatory, and I'm like, oh, I'm not really like that. Kind of sucks. Like, it was cool that I obviously probably thousands of people find the secret stuff still, but it's cool to not look it up and find it on my own. It's like a very nice feeling. So to do stuff like that in the game, I really like that they put that in. There's so much stuff that you can just completely gloss over. In fact, there's multiple endings to the game, different ways that you can complete it. I don't know if I did a standard one, but there's the point when you go back up to the top of Ashina Castle and the owl is there, and you have the moment where you can side with him or turn against him. And I turn against him. You have to fight him, and then it opens up the fountainhead. There's like this whole big portion of the game at the end, and then you fight Sword Saint Ishin at the end. And you and Dubs Donuts both told me that you just sided with the owl there, and you have a completely different end game, and it ends like right there.
Yeah, you can side with Owl and Emma will try to kill you, and they'll all start saying that you're Shura, which is like a demon thing,
Mm-hmm.
or you're just gonna kill people or whatever. And so Emma is like, well, I guess I have to kill you, and she tries to kill you, and so you kill Emma, you stab her in the fucking throat,
Mm-hmm.
like everybody else. She only has one health bar. That it's a really well made fight too, because Ishin, if you give her a certain sake, you can speak to her, and she'll tell you that Ishin is teaching her
Taught
how to
her
fight
how
with
to fight
sword.
because, and then you ask why, and she says because she's afraid of demons or something like that. She says
Yeah, she said
she wants to kill a demon.
she wants to kill a demon, and that's like referring to Shura or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's
So
very cool.
she,
Again, that's another really thematic, cool plot point that comes around only if you're like super invested.
yeah, and she fights a lot like Ishin. She has a lot of his moves, and she's fast. But there's a sequence she does like a flurry of strikes at you, and you block the last one of it. If you deflect a bunch of them in a row, you'll like clash with their sword in like a short little cinematic way where you like push her off to the side, and she's like very clearly off balance, more than like any other enemy that you've ever fought,
Yeah.
because she's like not actually experienced with sword fighting. So like they do a great way just in the animations to show how much stronger you are than Emma if you just fight well. So if you just block her whole shit, you like push her to the side and she's wide open. And I thought that was very cool. You fight her and then you just fight Ishin when he's old and still alive instead of when he's dead
When
and
he climbs out of
revived.
Genichiro's body or whatever. Which also is a cool
He has
fucking
different
part.
moves.
I'm gonna get to that
Yeah,
actually in 1 second, but you reminded me too. Thematically, again, such a fucking great thing is um, Sekiro is like a super talented swordsman, like inarguably the best in Ashina or like the entire area. He's just the best swordsman. But when he wakes up from dying in the beginning of the game, he's like rusty. And you made me realize this, that when they talk about how they put it in where through her animations when you fight Emma, she's like a worse swordsman, and you can just tell it's not designed to be like a super tough fight because she was trained by Ishin, but it's like a cool way that they put that in. And also when you fight Genichiro the first time in the field, he's like you made me look back at it, and it was like he like pulls his blade out of his thing weird, like he's rusty from just being like reborn. And so you are a better swordsman, but they designed this fight again thematically, and you really even wouldn't know this until you go back and do it again, which is cool. Like they put that in as like a thing to notice on a new game plus, where you are a better swordsman technically, and it also works thematically as a meta game where you're a better swordsman when you come back and do it again and you actually have the chance to beat him. But when he does it like in that cutscene, the reason why he loses there is because he's like out of practice and he gets his fucking arm cut off. He's
yeah.
like meant to do that.
And another thing that's cool, you mentioned earlier that you like how there's things that are totally optional because then you figure them out. I don't know if you ever went back and did it, but there's actually an entire extra boss fight that I didn't play until like my third playthrough of the game because I didn't know it was there. Where you fight your father again, but in Harada Estate.
Oh yeah, no, I never went back into that one.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best boss fights in the game. It's super cool and very satisfying.
Oh, another
I
cool
also
thing about
like
that you
how
mentioned.
Owl will kill you
Yeah.
if
So
if you try to stab him. He'll fucking he has Makiri counter just like you because he's your fucking dad. So he'll step on your sword and just fucking it does so much damage.
So that is really cool too. They mention it because you have. Well, if you do the one, if you say no to him at the top of Ashina Castle, you have to fight him there. And you said after that you can go back to the Memory of Harada and fight him again. And you told me that he has a completely different move set, which is absolutely insane for a developer to have the same battle be a different battle, like different character, and create an entire new move set. Especially considering like how hard, how incredibly hard it must be to like make these move sets for people to feel balanced and fun and also have them be cool.
Yeah, he shares a few moves, excuse me, but he has a lot more moves. I feel like he has like twice as many moves,
Yeah.
and it's very crazy. He uses the firecrackers against you a bunch. It's extremely dangerous. He can do that in the first fight, but I've seen it happen like once. I
Yeah,
fought
he,
him
he
like so
usually
many
just
times.
like throws poison at you and smoke or something.
Yeah, and he also uses Shadowfall, which is the combat art that you could get
Yeah.
where you like they do a
You
dashing
dive
stab,
at
and
them. Yeah.
he throws fire phoenixes at you, and you have to jump over them. It's like a whole thing,
Yeah.
but it's a bunch of moves he doesn't have in the regular fight. And they also in the free DLC they released, they came out with three. Uh, they call them inner, so it's like inner Genichiro, inner Ishin, and inner Father, and it's new versions of all three of those bosses. Genichiro just he had a couple of new moves, but he had a combat art that you can get by beating him, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It like automatically counter lightning as well.
That's actually cool as fuck. And also the one you get from, well, from Ishin when you beat him. So the way I did it again is I don't remember what the name of the ending is called, but when you so they do stuff like this throughout the whole game, which is really cool. They like sort of drip feed it to you where you beat Owl and like I'm not sure if it's before or after, but where when Ishin is normally in like a side tower of the Sheena Castle, and if you go outside of it, there's like a little box with a note in it, and it says that there's a second mortal blade called the Black Blade, and I remember telling you that I thought it was like an item you had to get that you would have later on, but it's not. When you go to the, I mean, unless it is, and I then there's like another secret ending, but I don't think so. When you get to the
No,
end and you fight, there's not.
there is not.
Okay, so when you get to the end, the way I did it, um, you fight Genichiro, and he's like, oh, I have the other mortal blade, and he pulls it out, and you fight him, and then he like slices himself with it after his phase, and Ishin is dead, but he like climbs out of Genichiro's body right there, and it is such a fucking cool way to put a character into the fight. Again, just like the cool shit they do just for it's like the sake of cool, the rule of cool, dude. Where you like you
Yeah,
crush Genichiro and you're like, cool, that was over. Why do you only have one health bar? And it's because you have a fucking 3-phase battle with Ishin, and he climbs out of Genichiro's body like a fucking demon.
yeah, it was extremely dope. Now I thought the Ishin fight was just so well designed because it starts off you like have to fight Genichiro, and by then like you're so used to fighting him. He doesn't have a lot of health in that form where he has all his armor off, and so you can beat him quick.
Yeah,
Like really quick, and it's super satisfying to be like, well, this guy that I struggled with for the whole game, my like rival, now I can just crush him like super easily, and then get to the real final boss.
yeah.
Like once you're in the flow of fighting Ishin, because like I think everybody that played Sekiro probably also had to fight Ishin over and over and over again. Like I know we both did.
Yeah. Oh, also another cool thing is that part was completely unexpected because you just find Emma over Ishin's body at one point, and you're like, oh, he died. That sucks. He was cool because you keep seeing him throughout the game, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's the samurai with the Tengu mask on that gives you the mission to kill the rats or whatever, right?
Yeah, he is.
And he
That's
names you
him.
Sekiro because then later on you find out because he calls you Sekiro, and you're like, huh? And you're like all dumbfounded like an idiot about it, which is really cool. But then he's dead, and you're like, oh damn, like he's dead. Owl's dead. I killed him. like I have to kill the divine heir. Like everyone's dying. Emma's just like gonna chill here. You go to you go back to the dilapidated temple, and the sculptor's gone. And you're like everything. Like at the end of the game, it's really dire. Like everyone's dead. The place is on fire. Like everything's fucked. And then you go, and then like Ishin's like dead, and he gets brought back as like some sort of. I actually don't even know what happened, but you have to fight him again. I don't know
Yeah, I
why he
don't
comes
really
back.
understand it.
No,
And
it
Ichiro
doesn't
like
really.
cuts himself open with the black mortal blade, and it's like his last wish was to summon Ishin
Yeah, is Ishin his
from
dad?
his bloodline, but
His
like it's his
grandfather?
adopted grandfather. It's his adopted
Oh yeah.
grandfather.
So
So
who
it's not
knows,
even like
dude?
the same bloodline to like use his blood to call his
Yeah,
kin blood or something corny like that. I don't really know how he did that, but he like wished on a
yeah.
blade,
And Ishin's like, "Hey,
whatever.
Sekiro, I kind of like you, but we gotta square up, dog." And you're like, "All right, whatever." And that was another cool thing because again, thematically, when you kill him at the end, it like does the slow down death blow thing, and he says like "thank you" or something like that, or he says "well done, Sekiro." He's like happy
Yeah.
to lose to you, even though he went
It's
all out on your
extremely
ass.
cool because like you have throughout the game you have all those extra death blows for all the bosses, and then Ishin gives you another one where like it's like super cinematic, and you've already won, and then you're just like you've cut his stomach or whatever, and then you're just waiting for the cutscene to start. You're like, all right, and a red
Another
like
death blow
kill me
timer
again.
pops up. Yeah,
Yeah, and you just kill him again, and he just goes do it, and then you cut him, and
yeah.
he's like,
He
well
says
done,
well done,
Sekiro.
and he's like on his knees because you've like fucked him up. And then it pops up. Yeah, it goes do it. It's like that's such a fucking cool thing. He's such a cool character. Like when you can even like like the enemies. Like Genichiro he's a cool boss, but like as a character, he's kind of just like a fucking lameo. He's just like, oh, I love Ashina so much.
Yeah,
Like, cool, dude. Whatever. And Ishin's like way more like three dimensional. Has like all these cool things going on. He's like mysterious, and he also cares, but he's just like off doing shit and he's like, can I just have some sake? And he's like he's more diverse, obviously, and wanting you to succeed is interesting too. Um, Even though he was like, I don't know, somehow
the characters
bound by
are
the.
the characters are so powerful, and the coolest thing I think it's a step up from Dark Souls again, where in Dark Souls you're like, oh, this guy's powerful because he's 8 times my size,
Yeah,
for some reason, and he's got a giant axe, and he's standing in my way, and I'm just gonna go over there. But in Sekiro, they actually built up a story because it's more like streamlined. It's not particularly linear, but like there's straight paths that you go through most of the time.
it's way less obtuse, I would say, in its
Way
delivery.
less than two. That's a better way to put it. And on top of that, the bosses that you fight are just they're men just like you. Like they're the same size as you most of the time, except for like a few. And
Yeah,
so it's cool because you see them built up as like these storied figures where it's like if you're not paying like much attention in Dark Souls, you can be like, who the fuck is Gwyn or Gwen? Like what's the first
I
boss's
still don't
name?
know who he is. I beat it like 5 times.
Gwendolyn? Like who the fuck knows who that guy is? But in Sekiro, you know who Ishin is. Like you've from the very first time you turn the game on, like the opening cutscene is like about Ishin
Yeah,
winning war and creating Ashina or whatever the fuck. So like you know who he is. It's like the only thing you've been hearing the whole game. And then you're like, oh, I thought he was dead. I have to fight him.
he's also an ally for most of the game, so you like never expect it. I think it's a really cool thing to happen because he's a super talented swordsman. You have to fight him, and he's never really opposed you in any way until the end when you become enemies. It's a really cool way to do it, and it's also neat. Like I hate when because you're thinking the entire time, oh, I have to fight fucking Genichiro again. It's like whatever, dude. I already fought him twice, and like who gives a shit about him by now? But then it's like a really cool way to introduce him as like a final boss and not have it be like Final Fantasy style Deus Ex Machina, where it's like, oh, you thought you beat Genichiro? Here's God.
It was still pretty much here's God in a way.
Basically, but yeah, but like in a cool
It
way, because
wasn't like Genichiro fused with God and
no,
was like
and he didn't
trained
like
with him.
again. He didn't have a fucking annoying speech. He wasn't like, and now I will be the ruler of the world once I take out you. And he throws his cape behind him. He was just like, hey, what up? And he pulled the sword out. You're like, oh shit, dude.
Yeah, and they have a bunch of and they have flavor text in all the items, just like Dark Souls. And about Ishin, they'll just be like, yeah, he just loved fighting.
And
He just loved
Saki, that's all I
fighting.
talk about.
And like the description for his combat art, Dragon Flash, it says like he got to all he wanted was a fight to the death, and he got it even in his last moments or whatever, thanks to Sekiro and shit,
Mm-hmm.
or to the wolf or whatever. And so it's like the dude's whole character is that he's really good at fighting. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, and then
So
you
when
have
you
to
get to
fight
Final
him, and
Boss,
you're
you
like,
know who he is.
yeah, like this makes sense. He's why am I having so much trouble? Oh, because this guy literally lives for this, to die for this moment. It's epic.
Yeah, and them not they reuse Genichiro to trick you into thinking, oh, I'm gonna fight Genichiro's fifth form. But they're
Yeah.
like, no, we're gonna give you a whole new boss. You
Again,
don't
yeah,
know any
and he
fucking
has like
move
the
yet, so
he has
you
the
have to
black
relearn it.
blade, and so you're like, oh, what's he gonna do? He's gonna have super black blade powers. He kind of does, but it's kind of a throwaway fight. And they again, that's all like thematic. They planned a boss fight and all of the things therein based on oh, we're gonna make it one round of Genichiro, and then you have to fight all of Ishin here, and it's like this is cool. It's cool as shit. They didn't have to do that, and they went above
It's
and
so
beyond to
perfectly
do it.
done.
It really is.
It's
And
perfect because, especially because you're so good at fighting Genichiro by then that like Ishin's hard, but every time you fight him, you get even better at fighting Genichiro. So you're getting a little bit of satisfaction, even if you're getting fucked up by Ishin over and over again. Because you're like, well, I can fuck up Genichiro without getting hit now, and then I
having
can get to
them
Ishin.
having them be back to back really highlights like how much better Ishin is because you start demolishing Genichiro over and over and over, and then you're just learning the phases of each Ishin, and it's like this is cool. This is cool as shit. Again, there's like another way where you like level up, and you're not even like necessarily thinking about these things in the moment. It's like this secondary analysis. You're like, oh yeah, that was dope. I didn't even realize I was like thrashing Genichiro at the end until it's like, oh, I fought him fucking 20 times and I destroy this phase every time because you have to.
Yeah, it's such a brilliant way to keep it satisfying,
Yeah,
even up to like the hardest fight in the game.
yeah. Talking about it now makes me want to play more, dude. I'm just thinking about fighting the monk. Oh, you know what you know what's interesting too? When you go to the I'm really bad with names. You go to the underground village. What's it called? Mibo?
Mibu,
Oh, yeah,
M
yeah,
I.
yeah. When you go there, there's like a point where you just go through an open field and there's like a ghost lady. And if you talk to her, she's like, "Where's the prince?" or whatever. And you're like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Then die." And you have to fight her. And then the second time through, I just tried running past her and she's like, "Don't you ignore me, dickhead." And you have to fight her anyway. And I was like, What's this lady's deal? They do not explain this at all. And I kind of want to look it up. Do you know anything about her?
Yeah. All I know is that it's like a little side thing where it's totally has no relation to anything outside of itself, really. But there's a guy at the very top. You know the hole you come out of at the beginning of the game? That's the way you can get down to Mibu. You like jump down you like fall down that hole, and then if you go to the poison swamp, and that leads to Mibu.
There's
So at the
several
very
ways.
top of that,
I never went that way.
yeah, well, at the very top of that way, there's this guy named like something with a J, but he's like, "Oh, I hear music,"
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
you talk to him, and if you can lure him to a dungeon and
Oh,
have him
I
get
told
like,
him. Oh,
experiments on.
yeah. I never did that either. I told him. He was like, "I hear music." I was like, "You should go investigate it." And I never talked to him again.
Yeah, so if you talk to him at each stage of his trip down there, like as you go down to Mibu for the first time, he'll like be along with you kind of, and he keeps saying he hears the music, and then like he hears the music, and then you still have to fight that lady. Her name's Orin, and then you can like turn around and go back to where he was right outside her room, and he like drops a special item.
Oh, what does he drop?
But like it's like it's a bundled Jesus statue that stuff that gives you a resurrection
Yeah,
again, but it's like it has like a special name because it's named after that guy.
that's
That's it.
it.
Yeah, that's it.
What else?
It's
That's
like
just
a
the end of
weird.
that storyline.
Yeah, yeah. That's like it's just like a weird thing you can
Dude,
do.
I thought so. Like, I'm pretty sure I
You
had
can
already.
stumble upon that if you want.
I had like gone up to the top and he's there, and you like talk to him, and it's like lure him to the depths or something. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll just pick that. I feel very sinister right now. Why is it making me do this? I don't
Yeah,
know
well,
what
there's
the option
quest
is.
an abandoned dungeon where there's a guy standing outside of. I don't know if you talk to him, but he asks you to get him something. He asks you to get a subject from to experiment on or whatever the fuck. And so you can lure either him or that you know that big fat dude outside the Senpo
Oh,
Temple.
that's the other thing I did. I never finished that because he's like, I want a flower, and I give him the multicolored pinwheel, and then he's like, do it, kill me or something, and then I can't interact with them anymore.
Oh, so you can use divine abduction. You know that prosthetic art.
No,
If you read the description of it, it's like the fans.
dude, I'm so dumb.
If you read the description of this is like really this isn't like spelled out in the game very well at all. But if you read the description, it says like that when you use divine abduction, it's the stuff that like turns people around.
Yeah,
It
it
says
spins them around for the death blow.
it says that they get spirited away. That's how they describe it, and that's what that fat dude is
No
crying about.
fucking shit.
He goes,
That's
"I heard Shinobi can like spirit people away, so do that to me." So if you use that on him, he teleports down to where you fight the that folding screen monkeys mini boss.
what's the
Where you
folding screen monkey mini boss?
we haven't talked about it at all actually. It's one of the weirdest bosses. It's like those four monkeys.
Oh, I did
Well,
that, but you just like that's a it's like an entire stealth section or something.
yeah, kind of. It's weird. It's like the weirdest thing.
It was very
It's
weird.
it's strange. You could
It
like
that
just
felt
stealth
out of
through it.
place. I forgot. It didn't really bother me because I
I forgot about
succeeded
it too.
instantly, but it's entirely out of place. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's weird. You have to. There's like all these signs that you can read for like hints on how it works, and you can kind of infer. Like, oh, one monkey here is good.
Yeah, I
That's
read all
big.
of them. It meant
But,
nothing to me. I just killed the monkeys.
yeah, but it's like easy enough that you can just kill the monkeys. But anyway, that's where that guy goes if you spirit him away with the divine
And what does
abduction.
he do?
But you can also lure him that he just hangs out there. You can get more
This
like.
part of the podcast is where Isaac just explained shit to me that I didn't understand from the game.
You can just like talk to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I love being here with the children of the forest, or whatever the fuck they're called." And it's like those kids that are like dead, but
Yeah,
they
all those
exist in
dead
that realm
kids
or
that tried to
whatever.
become gods or whatever
Divine child
that
or
they did
whatever.
experiments on. Yeah.
Whatever the fuck any of this means.
Yeah, we're
People
just
that never
saying
played the
shit right
game are
now,
like,
dude.
"Oh, what the fuck? The divine child?
We're
Like,
just
oh
like
my god, what
saying
kind of holy
shit.
pedophilia is this?"
Yeah, no, it really is epic. Those pedophilic monks are like, let's get a bunch of little kids in here. We're gonna make them our sex slaves forever.
That's exactly what they
And
were
then the
doing.
kid wins. The kid wins at the end. I think they're still
Yeah, I
alive.
guess
One
they
of them.
had
One
a
of them
like
lived. They were trying to make immortality. Oh wait, this actually ties in with that stupid centipede thing we were talking about because the centipede guys are in that tower and they're trying to make their own immortality potion and they didn't succeed, but they somehow got one kid to stay alive forever
yeah,
because
they
he
don't.
gives you the mortal blade.
Yeah, they don't really explain how the fuck any of that
No,
works.
I actually think it's epic. I love ambiguity. I love when they don't explain stuff. It makes it way cooler. Because when you explain stuff too much, it kind of ruins it. They do this in so many things where they're like, oh yeah, addendum, by the way. This is going to be a 30-minute portion of the game where we just really poorly explain all this stuff. But right now, it's just like, yeah, it's cool. They made this kid immortal. How? The texts are lost. Who
There's a
cares?
bunch of like dead bodies around the temple, so maybe they like did human sacrifice to collect
No,
life
those are
force.
just those are other
But
people
they
that they
never.
tried to make immortal because they talk about how they did
Oh,
it like
word,
on thousands of kids and it just failed.
word. So yeah, I guess it's them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that. So anyway, we were talking about the side quest. So that's one thing you can do with that guy. But you can also send him or that other guy at the top of the well thing. You can do either of them. You can send to the abandoned dungeon,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like a doctor, and you can come back and talk to him, and he asks you to go get something from Mibu Village.
Oh, I
So you
remember
bring
that.
it back.
Yeah.
You bring that back, and then eventually you can fight him and whoever you brought.
At the same time,
Yeah,
that's neat.
they're on like a little island in when you're in an abandoned dungeon, you're going to Sempo Temple. There's that little like, cave water section. One of those islands they'll both be on. They'll have like red eyes and they'll try to kill you
Damn, that's
immediately.
really neat. I thought I did a lot of stuff in this game, and I missed out on all of that, which is very cool. I legitimately love it because that's like a game like this, like with New Game Plus, you need something more than just playing the game again for replayability, and like that. I mean, that's just something I could do that I've never done before. Just extra bosses that are cool to fight in little. It's not really that hard to do anyway. You already have
Yeah,
all the equipment, especially on New Game Plus.
yeah. I just want to reiterate the owl fight is so dope that I played through the game twice and I had no idea that the fight was there. I had no idea that the whole section was there.
I
I was
wouldn't
like, I
have
don't know you can
known
go
until
back
you
to
told me.
Harada.
Why would I? Why would you go back? It's such a cool thing. It's for people. It rewards people who want to explore more. If so, and people are caring about the themes and reading every little bit of lore. They go, oh, you know what? Maybe I should check. I did just fight Owl. I thought he was dead. why don't I go back and check Harada and see? Because he was dead there too. And like, you get rewarded for that. It's such a really cool thing. I didn't think that because I was like, man, whatever, dude. I'm stupid as hell. Like I said, I just move forward and I attack everything in my way. And that's one really cool way to do it. But for other people who are losers and nerds and like to read and shit, they also get rewarded.
Yeah, and they have a whole boss fight, a whole like really good boss fight,
Yeah.
just hidden where you can totally play the game and never even know it might be there.
That's
You have
sort of
no,
like that's another great thing about it where like there's I mean, I don't know, there's a handful of it's probably 5 or more extraneous bosses that I never even encountered that and I had a really complete and fun playthrough of the game that was like it puts it one of my top games of all time for me and I haven't even done all the content and
yeah,
I have a new game plus file currently going.
yeah, Sekiro rules.
Yeah, it's a really good game. Yeah, I thought there was one other thing I was gonna say, but I honestly can't remember. We touched on so many awesome things. Oh, yeah, the monkey thing was cool.
Yeah, we both just forgot that happened.
It's a really weird section. You just have to sneak around a bunch of pagodas, and there's nothing there but 4 monkeys, and you just do a death blow on them. And one of them's like, it's like the hear no evil, see no evil classic thing, but like, because one monkey has bad hearing, and one has bad eyesight, and one's invisible. Well, they also don't tell you about that one. That's actually kind of cool too, thematically, because there's like 4 paper doors and like there's only 3 monkeys on them, and then there's 4 monkeys, and then at one point I just turned around and there was like footprints behind me, and I was like, oh, that's really neat. He's just invisible.
Yeah, it's very cool. They just like, oh, I can just if you go into that and you know that monkeys are like now every time you ever do that again, you can just turn around and slash as soon as the area loads.
Oh, that's so fucking cool. I
You
love
just
that.
immediately kill that monkey. It's like always behind you.
I never figured out like what you're supposed to do. It's like, yeah, one's sensitive to this. I just like snuck around until I killed them. There are a couple other monkeys actually randomly on the rooftops there, but I had a good time. It was like a cool stealth section. Honestly, I just like walked around until I killed these monkeys.
Yeah, it's an interesting like it's supposed to be more thematic boss for some reason.
Yeah, it was something. I mean, Dark Souls have pretty like as a staple thing. They do a couple gimmicky bosses throughout the whole thing. They've
Oh,
always
they
done
also
it.
had the Divine Dragon. That
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
great.
I didn't like the Divine Dragon. If we're being honest, it was kind of corny. He wasn't really a challenge in any way. The theme of it was cool. The fact that he was gigantic and like what you do was neat, and the way you like take a piece of his tear was really cool. But the fight was like you would just jump around the tree branches until he did lightning on you, and you could like. It was cool that he had a sword that was the size of the entire area you're in, and you could parry it.
Yeah, it was cool, but for a boss at the end of the hardest area called the fucking Divine Dragon,
It was a throwaway.
it was
It was the easiest boss in the game.
yeah, it was disappointing for a boss.
Yeah.
I'd say even the monkeys are better than that boss. So
Yeah,
it's
because I hated the
it's worse boss.
Fountainhead. The Fountainhead for me felt it honestly did. Unfortunately, I wouldn't even count this as a flaw of the game because it is still like super polished, but they like take some stuff away from you in this part that I really don't like. They like throughout the whole game you can like get on rooftops and take different angles, and they just like don't have any grapple hooks on any rooftop in this segment, and you have to go through it like very specifically, which I don't like through like the entire section. And then you get to the second section and the giant carp breaks the bridge. If you go into the fucking water, the guy with the lightning just kills you from anywhere.
Yeah.
That was dumb.
Yeah,
I
it's
hated
very
that the
dumb.
most.
It doesn't matter if he can actually. It pissed me off because I was like, he can't see me. I was like,
If
"Just,
you
like,
go in the water, he starts
behind-"
attacking you. It's really stupid.
Yeah,
And
but there's like a part behind the first, like off to the left when you first get there, and I'm like, there's terrain between me and this guy. Like,
yeah,
how the fuck is he hitting me? But it's just like a fixed thing. Like,
yeah,
if
they
you
just
go in the
program it
water
in.
and you
I,
haven't killed this many boss, you get electrocuted.
It's really weird. That's like I honestly don't even count it as a flaw because the game is so good, and Fountainhead's not that bad. It's just like the weakest part of the game, I think. It's just really like because it's still cool enemy design. There's those weird like wimpy guys with the robes on that like make you feeble, which is weird, and it's not anywhere else in the game as well.
Yeah.
And the Fountainhead dudes look like cool little mini dragons, and they like dance around like a bunch of sick freaks. That was neat. The carp thing I wasn't in love with, but it is very cool thematically. Again, it's like a mini snake, and they do it for a very small portion of the game. There's a giant carp that
Yeah.
will eat you in the same way. It was fine. You have to go through the gate, like the level very specifically, which bothered me. Like the rest of the game, you could like grapple here, hide here, go under the thing, go around, stealth kill this guy, retreat, go a different way back up the second way. And then Fountainhead was like pretty straightforward. Like you really couldn't go
Yeah,
anywhere.
it's like you do stealth, and like there's a part you can go inside the roof for one section of it, but it's like here, do
But
this
even
stealth
the
section.
next section
Oh,
where the Shichiman warrior was, like you have to go through the carp section. You have to get in the water. You have to go past him,
yeah,
and then you come up behind, and it like unlocks a shortcut that you never use. Because why would you ever go back to Fountainhead? It makes no sense. They do it. They still do cool stuff there, but that part was like kind of weak. But it doesn't really matter. It bothered me because it was like at the end of the game, and I kind of like it. If it was a cooler area, it might have been like good. But the game was already like 100 by then. I don't really think it takes away from it that much.
yeah, it's the weakest area, but it's not like how Dark Souls had lost
Lost
easily.
easily, yeah.
Area. Like it's not that bad.
It's like it's shades of it. Honestly, it felt like I always say this when we talk about Dark Souls 1, where Lost Easily felt like they literally did it at the end of the game, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm tired. Can we just finish this area?" It felt very slapped together without as much thought as the rest, where it's like big open areas, really
Yeah.
stupid. The same enemy repeated 50 times, like just drop them in. It's like, have you ever been in like a map maker in any video game that you can make a map maker, and you're like goofing around the very first time, you're just like figuring out what you could do, and you like pick a wall piece and you put 700 of them, and you pick an enemy and you pick 700 of them. You're like, that looks good. Because you're stupid. It's like that's what they did there. It's like all those
That's
weird
what they
T-Rex
did.
guys. Yeah, and
That
it's
was
it's
that was
shades of
egregious.
that. It's shades of that in Fountainhead, where it's like again, still
Big
not
open
bad
lake.
somehow, but it is like very tacked on. It felt like.
Yeah, just shades of that because I think the enemy placement is still uh pretty well thought out,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the section you were talking about, like that section where you can't um grapple up to the top at all. Like until you get to the end. Once you get past it, there's a grapple
You can
point.
grapple
So now you
backwards,
can go
yeah.
on the roof. Now you can go. There's like guys on the roof. Just that bull that you could fight.
I never did that actually.
You never fought the bull?
Not in
Oh, so you
Fountainhead.
can. Yeah, so if you grapple back up, the area where you have like right after there's all those lightning dogs, and then there's the area I'm talking about with
Yeah,
like
you
all the
like it's
stealth.
like kind of open and everything's like in water or whatever.
Yeah, I keep saying all the stealth. You don't have. You can just run through a
Is it?
fight, but
It's
they have
before the
single
carp.
guys.
It's right before the carp.
Yeah, right before the carp.
Yeah,
So
where that old
before you
lady's
come over the
talking about her
bridge.
husband or whatever.
Yeah, past that, if you turn around before you cross the bridge,
Yeah.
there's a grapple point, and over. If you're facing away from the bridge, she's on the right side of the whole area. So there's just like
A
over on the
bull?
side, there's a whole bowl. Yeah, it's called the soccer bowl, and you could kill it, and it drops a prayer bead.
Is it like the fire bull from early in the game?
Yeah, it's just like that.
I never did that. I
It's
didn't.
like
That's
got
crazy.
purple stuff instead of fire on its horns, but you can stealth kill it.
Purple stuff, dude. He's
You can
got
stealth kill it, but
Kool-Aid.
you have to use yeah, purple stuff. You can stealth kill it, but you have to use firecrackers, and it'll freak out and run into a wall, and it'll fill its entire posture gauge up and fall over.
That's really
And
neat.
you can walk up and kill it.
Damn, I never did that. There's some other stuff I have to do now. But besides that, this is again a testament to how good the game is that I did not really like Fountainhead, and the game is I wouldn't even count it as a flaw because the game is just so well done, even with that part in there.
Yeah,
But just again, you can do the basic combat, the standard gameplay loop, take it through to any point in the game, get a complete ending, have an awesome end fight, and feel really good. There's 3 other endings for people who want to explore more. There's tons of hidden lore and secrets and bosses, and just so much cool thematic stuff that ties all together. I had a blast playing it. If you've never played Sekiro, you have to. If you've played Sekiro and you gave up, you're a loser, and I'm taking your gaming card away right now. And if you played it and beat it, rise up, gamer.
hell yeah, brother.
Oh, and you also told me you can hand in the bell on your second one and make it harder. That's another thing that you can actually make this game harder. they don't
Oh,
they don't
yeah.
add easy mode, but there are several ways you can make it harder. If you hand in your charm on New Game Plus, you take chip damage on block.
Yeah, it kind of makes you deflect everything instead of just
Yeah. And you could
blocking
also
along.
ring the demon bell at the monk temple to make it
Yeah.
harder as well.
Make like New Game Plus, like it increments to 1 New Game Plus.
Well, you could do that whenever. Oh, dude, and there's that mini boss on the bridge in the monk place where you have to kite him off the bridge to kill him. He's like a he's like an English guy in armor,
Oh yeah,
and
Robert's
he's like
dad.
for Robert, yeah. Well, and he just like is 8 feet tall, and he's wearing a full suit of English armor and a giant claymore, and he does insane amount of posture damage. And what you have to do is break his posture. Oh, so when you're fighting him, it's really cool. He like has these big wide swings, and he'll break open like swaths of the bridge wall, and then when you get a kill move on him, it just like pushes him, and he like gets back up, and he's like, "You won't be able to kill me with that pussy ass blade." And then you're like, what the fuck do I do? This never happened before. And then if you kill him, then you realize, like, oh, I got to do it by the fence piece he broke out. And then you push him off the cliff and he dies.
Yeah, that was like super cool, but like it's kind of you're right that you never did it before, and you also never do that again.
Oh, that's another one of the gimmicky Dark Souls things that they throw in where it's you're never trained how to do it. You have to figure it out in the moment, and you never use it before or after, which is very weird.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like,
But
okay.
I didn't think it was hard to figure out. And at this point in the game, you're pretty good at like parrying. So he does a fuck ton of damage, but it's still not that hard really to beat. And I also thought it was really cool to figure it out. I don't think that everything. Unfortunately, we've talked about this before too. Ego Raptor poisons everyone's brain when he did the fucking sequelitis, and everyone thought they knew everything about game development from that. And he's actually a dumb bitch, and most of his points are wrong, and he's stupid. But I don't think that there's no like he acts like every part of a video game is Chekhov's gun. Like if they show something in a game, it doesn't need to be built up for another technique, and it doesn't need to have like I'm fine with a single use gimmick. It's cool because otherwise then they have to shoehorn in like throwing off bridge enemies or something, and it's like, yeah, this sucks. I don't want to fucking fight these guys. It's cool as a one-off, and it's I don't think so punishing that it's too hard to learn in the fight.
Yeah, well, it's certainly not like a Chekhov's gun because the Chekhov's gun is still use your sword to fight enemies. Like you were still, even though it's a different thing, it was only slightly different. You just had to attack them from the correct direction when you got the death blow. And in a way, it kind of taught you, oh, when you have the death blow thing, like you have some time, you could reposition and
Yeah,
then use.
you can do stuff here with this. But I meant it in the fact that like just because that they show something in a game doesn't mean that it's going to be like repeated use. I think that's fine. I don't think it's a sign of like bad game design if there's a one-time gimmick, because it could just be a
Oh,
cool thing. It's just like a cool moment in the game that I mean it gives that part so much originality. You never see an enemy type like that. They don't fight like that, and you don't have to kill anyone like that ever again. And it makes this part wholly unique and special.
yeah, yeah, they do a great job.
Yeah.
That fight is very cool.
Yeah, he also just walks when he walks out to like meet you is really cool. It's like very cinematic. You walk on the bridge and he just like stomps into the view from like a balcony. And he's like and he talks through his mask, so he's always like Robert or whatever the fuck he's doing all the time.
Yeah.
He's always talking about his son or something. I don't know, I feel like that's cool.
That whole area rules. They have really good level design where like there's a lot of different ways to get to a place.
Oh yeah. And dude,
Always
right after
grand.
that, you go up the hill, and they've never done this before, where you fight like regular guys with shields, and there's like a giant guy with a club who also has a shield, and he also has a guy casting magic next to him, and there's also another guy hiding behind a rock there. Like it's such a fucking cool part. And there's like dogs right before that. There's just enemies nonstop throughout the game, but they do it in cool ways.
Yeah, and you can take a cliff like to skip
Half
that
of that,
whole
yeah.
that mountain. You can
And
like skip that.
if you go into one of those temples, you fight the long necked centipede giraffe guy or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, and like there's a lot of optional mini bosses
Yeah.
where you can just, yeah, I'm not fighting that guy.
Well, I mean, you might not even stumble upon it. Well, that's my thing on. Do you have any last words for Sekiro? I'll let you get the last word in.
One of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
If you don't play it, you're a bitch. That's all I gotta say.
That was great, dude. All right, next time I think next episode is going to be on gay sex. I think. Did we say we're going to switch off games for a week? Did we say? I'm just kidding. We have nothing else planned. We'll figure it out. Thank you guys for listening about Sekiro. Go play it right now, or else I'll be mad at you. Bye.
Bye.